Alright, welcome everybody to File 1. Basically, this is a little series that we're starting, where we're just gonna chronological, or what should we call it? Basically,
We are going to file
yeah,
accounts
we're
of
just gonna
alien
file
shit.
accounts of alien and paranormal activity alike, mostly alien stuff.
So I'm gonna refer to myself. You can call me David or New727. I'm New727 on the internet, but call me whatever. What do you want me to refer to you as?
You can refer to me as Shane, Steven, Big Dick Ball Guy. I don't know,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, just Shane. Shane's fine. Or Minister
Well,
Shane,
you
because I
can
am a
call
registered minister.
you can call me Minister Dave if you wish.
Okay. Anyway, episode 1,
There we go.
okay,
We're
you
off
might want
to
to grab
a
that.
rousing start
Lost
here.
the mouse.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, episode 1. We wanna file, Barney and Betty Hill, also known as the Hill
Don't
Abduction.
you mean Betty White?
Yeah, I know, right? I kept referring to it. All right, it's also known as the Hill Abduction, aka the Zeta Reticuli incident. Um, Basically, it was a couple back in the '60s.
No. Let me stop you for a second here. I see that you're trying to read the Wikipedia page we have for reference. Do what you were doing originally and just refer to
Yeah,
it
that's
because it's more natural that
yeah,
way.
no, I'm going to. Basically, the reason why I like this case a lot and why I personally wanted to file this one, not only was it one of the most publicized alien abduction cases in America.
But it was one of the first, or it was.
Yeah,
the first,
it was
right?
literally
See,
the first, they say, as
now-
far as abductions.
Now let me stop and say the first abduction. I like that it's claimed to be the first abductions because that leaves a little less room for lies, so people can just pull things out of what they've heard.
Right,
Which
exactly, yeah.
I really like that. So it gives it a little bit more genuine
Right.
feel to it because these people did obviously they probably didn't hear much about
They
that.
honestly, supposedly, from what I've read, they didn't want the publicity that they got. Like, they weren't expecting it. They just really were scared that they had been abducted. They had to let somebody know, and then it somehow broke out to the news.
Well, around the
and
time
they became famous.
That was around the same time as like Roswell and stuff, right?
Right.
So it was, people were really into that, and first abduction. I still give them the benefit of the doubt being it being the first, but people hear
Now,
about that.
let me rephrase that. It was the first popularized abduction in America. There was several cases in different countries of abduction, but this was the first one in America that was publicly.
Again, though, in the '60s, information didn't travel as quickly as it does now.
Exactly.
So these people didn't. They probably there's a very good chance these people didn't even know what the fucking alien was in the '60s.
Right.
So again.
Anyway, let's get back to the facts. Barney and Betty Hill were a couple. At the time, also, this is something that I read was, and everyone will know, anyone that knows the Barney and Betty Hill abduction, they were an interracial couple.
Really?
Yeah, on this, Barney was African American and Betty was European American.
Well, shit.
Yeah, so and that was weird back then.
Yes, it was.
Not that it has anything to do with anything. It's just
It's a touch
right.
of the character.
Anyway, the story goes that they were in vacation in Niagara Falls and they were traveling back to their hometown of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. One reason why I like this case is because I'm originally from New Hampshire. And it was, it was getting dark, and Betty, for some reason, she was looking up in the sky, and she noticed what she thought to be a shooting star. Only the shooting star was moving upwards instead of downwards. So she started following it with her eyes a little bit, and she noticed it moved in front of the moon, and, went up and down and this way and that way. So finally, she told her husband about it and convinced him to pull the car over so they could get a better look.
Jesus Christ, Betty, here we go again.
Yeah, right?
All right, you want me to just stop the car? Fine.
Right. So, he stopped the car, he got out, and as soon as they got out of the car, the UFO, swooped down in front of them. They said it was hovering between 50 to 80 feet in the air, and it was about 300 feet away.
Let me stop you one more time. I know when people hear the word UFO, they immediately, aliens. The term UFO means unidentified flying object, so I'm going to use the term UFO whenever it's in the air and we don't know what the fuck it is.
Exactly.
So, again,
right.
I'm not a huge believer of like the alien type shit that goes on, but I'm using that term, so continue.
Well, I guess at first when Barney was looking at it, he didn't think it was a UFO. He thought it was just, a spacecraft, an aircraft, like a. But then he noticed that aircrafts don't move the way it was moving, so it couldn't have been. Well, he took the binoculars that he had and he looked into the UFO, and through the windshield, he saw between 10 and 12 humanoid creatures, is what he called them. They kind of look like humans, but they kind of didn't.
Now, can I stop you again and interject a little bit? Did they give any any judgment of distance as to how far this was?
It was, yeah, they said it was between 50 to 80 feet in the air and about 300 feet away from them.
So not extremely far, but he must have had some pretty good binoculars on him.
Yeah, I would say.
To get a
well,
clear...
they had just gone to the Niagara Falls, so they had binoculars.
Okay.
Also, he had a pistol in the trunk, which he took with him.
Yeah.
Oh, what was it? Oh, that's what it was. I'm sorry, because I'm reading off. I just read all this earlier today, so I'm like trying to. The facts. What happened was they pulled over, one, to get a look at the shooting star, and two, because they had to walk their dog.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird because they never actually mentioned anything about the dog after the fact.
Okay, that's a little
nothing
weird.
is ever mentioned about it actually. But they went to walk their dog, and he took his pistol with him, not because of the aliens, but because bears. He was afraid there might be bears, so he had his pistol with him, which never got used.
He didn't play no motherfucking shit.
Exactly.
Essentially.
And it never got used, by the way. The pistol was never shot or fired, as far as I know, from what I've read. Anyway, so it swoops down. He gets a glimpse inside. He sees 10 to 12 humanoid figures, all wearing black glossy suits with black caps. Almost like cadet caps. Okay, so this freaks him out. He runs back to his car. They get inside the car. They start driving. They take a back road for some reason.
Sorry, I keep interrupting. Let me stop you one more time, though. One thing I like, and I know it's a little weird, I know some people it seems cheesy, but I like how in older accounts of alien abductions and like witnessing aliens and stuff, they always describe the aliens as wearing some sort of clothing. And why would an intelligent species and shit like be ass naked all the time? Like us as humans, we develop clothing and all that for many purposes, but alien abductions you hear about recently, they always hear about like they were naked and they were these tall like monstrous creatures. I always imagine aliens as probably being pretty similar to us, probably different depending on where they're from, but not like too fucking insane.
Yeah, I can understand
so
that.
I kind of like how the older accounts always account them as wearing something.
Right, even if it is like a cheesy...
He was wearing a spaceman helmet.
Exactly.
But still.
Anyway, so they get freaked out. They get back in their car. They start driving. They keep looking up at the sky to see if it's still in the air and following them. It's a dark night and they know it, but the creepiest part is they don't see stars. So they know that there is something above them, like something's got to be hovering them above them for them not to see the sky. So anyway, all of a sudden, while driving, they start feeling a tingling feeling. Both of them account for this. And they feel the car vibrating, and they hear like a turbine sound, like a whirling sound, and gears and beeps. Yeah, beeps and boops and stuff, And all of a sudden, they both get into this trance-like state. Next thing they know, they're coming back to, and they're 35 miles away from where they were, traveling the same path that they were traveling with no story to account what happened.
I know I need to shut my fucking mouth so you can tell the story.
No, keep going.
But you had somebody who was claiming to have been abducted once.
Yeah. And
you mentioned something about him, maybe not like a trance-like state, but he started walking off into a random location, didn't really know why or anything like that. So trance-ish. Mm-hmm. Which, I like that when accounts and things like that kind of add up a little bit.
Right, yeah. And you guys will hear about that abduction story that happened to my friend at some point here. We got it on file somewhere.
Yeah,
I don't know where it's going to be added to.
Real accounts of...
real accounts of horror, which is another series for this page. Anyway, so they both fall into a trance-like state. They wake up, or they come to, if you will, about 35 miles from where they were, with a 2-hour missing time, as it's called, where they can't account for what happened. They said that they do remember fragments of what happened. Apparently they remember traveling, They remember veering off into the woods. They remember hitting a roadblock, and they remember seeing a fiery orb, and that was it.
A fire in the sky.
Almost, yeah. So they get home. They get home, and they're just on it. What the fuck happened, you know? So they start trying to put in the chronology. I gotta get that word down.
Yes, you do.
Put in the chronological statistics. Put in the chronological order the events that happened, and they just can't figure out what happened in that time. So they finally end up, you know, calling it a day. Oh, and
Barney started getting tattoos all over his body about various events that he wanted to remember, and
I hated that movie.
I love that movie.
But anyway, they look around a little bit their house. They search through their shit. Barney finds on the back of the car, the trunk of the car, there's a bunch of little circular incisions almost. And they are weird because they took a compass. I don't know why they took a compass. That's just a weird thing.
I wanted to ask you about this. Did anybody else ever get a look at the circular incisions, or is this something that they account themselves only?
I'm not sure.
Because seems like something that would be there for someone else to look at.
I'm not sure what the deal with that is, but apparently they took a compass around the car, the trunk of the car, and the compass went berserk.
Yeah.
As soon as they took it away from the car, the compass was fine. Literally, like, if they pulled it an inch away from the trunk, it was fine. The binoculars that he had were torn, and they don't remember them tearing, and one of Betty's dresses, or the dress that Betty was wearing, was all frailed and torn up, and there was some pink powder on it, which I guess she put the dress out on a hanger, supposedly, and the pink powder blew off, and then she ended up deciding that it was unrepairable, so she threw the dress away, but something stopped her, and she went and pulled it out of the trash and hung it in her closet. So, the dress is actually accounted for to this day.
Did it have any sort of powder on it?
I guess it's gone through 5 different scientific, like, what would you call that? Like, 5 different scientists have examinations, yeah, and they couldn't find anything.
See, I don't like that because, you know, a powder...
Conveniently,
let's say it blew off, you know, find enough powder would totally blow away, but... Like, assuming, like, modernish science had a look at it, there would be traces of something on there. If we can find a jizz stain from a caveman a million years ago, then I think we could find probably. But I'm just saying we could probably find a little bit of powder.
If we can find Bill Clinton's jizz on fucking Monica Lewinsky's dress,
then I think we could find some fucking pink powder on an alien abduction case.
Right. So anyway, here's where it starts to get weird. Betty and they end up trying to get some sleep. A couple days go by. There's still kind of anxiety about it and freaked out. Yeah, anxious about They're still kind of anxious about it and freaked out, but they just kind of start like, you know, we can't figure out what happened, so let's just kind of, you know, keep it to ourselves, let it go. Betty starts having dreams. And for 5 nights straight, she keeps having this reoccurring dream that goes further and further into detail as she has it. It starts with the missing time. Basically, when they went into the trance-like state, they pulled off into the woods, and they got out of the car, and 3 or 4 men, or humanoids, whatever you want to call them, brought them into their ship, and I guess Betty came to in that time, in her dream at least, and tried calling for Barney, because he was right behind her.
Is the term came to or came through?
Came to.
Came to?
Yeah, she came to in that time, and she looked back to see Barney, who was still in a trance-like state and wasn't paying attention.
Or, as she would put it, acting the same as he always does.
Right. So, Betty has this dream where she goes up into the ship, and she gets asked by the leader, as she calls it in her dream, to lay down. And said, the leader, basically, these aliens were really polite, and they were actually pretty cool. He's like, you know, we're not going to hurt you. Apparently, they were communicating telepathically with Betty, but at the time, they didn't know what telepathic meant.
Again, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you about that. Because I don't like it when they're, like, people have very exact and specific terms for what happened to them, because that leads me to believe that these people know about this stuff.
Exactly, and no, she just said, I heard it through my mind.
Exactly.
And they were speaking English. They said their mouths, their exact words were, their mouths never moved, but I could hear them talking English.
Exactly, that's awesome, because if they're like, I heard they were wearing spacesuits, and they were talking, they were from the planet Kling blah.
And apparently it was actually the hypnosis guy, like the doctor, that told them, yeah, that's called telepathy. Telepathy. Yeah, and they're like, telepathy?
Well,
you know,
goddamn.
Yeah, anyway, so Betty is talking to this alien, and she's got questions for it, because she came too, apparently. This is all in her dreams, by the way. She asks the alien where it's from, and the alien brings up a three-dimensional map with a bunch of stars, and there's really brightly lit stars, and he points to it and says, we're from here.
Three-dimensional, how do you define three-dimensional? Like, what did they explain that as?
She said it was like a hologram.
Okay, that's fucking awesome, because this is the 60s, and that was, like, people wouldn't know what the fuck to... That'd be crazy for somebody to, like, think up. You know,
she said it was almost like a hologram. I guess holograms existed, but they weren't like
they existed and
in science fiction.
In science fiction, and they probably existed in real life and expensive, more expensive forms. But
she didn't say the way that she explained it was how someone who didn't know what it was would explain it. It was in 3 dimensions, and it was almost like a hologram.
I'm just saying that's weird that somebody would bring that up in that time because that's very high tech for somebody.
So
to think
apparently, the alien pointed to it and said, "We're from here." Betty looked around a little bit and she saw a book with a bunch of inscriptions on it that she didn't understand. The alien was like, yeah, you can keep it, She asked why the aliens brought them there, and the alien said, we just want to see how different you guys are from us. If you don't mind, we'd like to examine you now. So they laid her down on a table, they checked her eyes, her ears, her mouth, her nose, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. No. And I guess they scraped a little bit of a skin off of her leg or something and put it into a little examine vial.
We need your meat.
Yeah, right? And apparently they stabbed her in the navel with a needle, and she said she was in agonizing pain for about a half a second, and then the leader waved his hand in front of her eyes, and the pain went away instantly. She said basically that they mumbled to each other in some language she didn't understand, and then they let her get up, and they said that she was free to go. And as she was walking out the door with them, I guess they started, arguing with each other, is what she said. An argument.
Steve, you can't let her keep the book.
Yeah, she said an argument ensued between them, and apparently what it was, the leader came back to her and said, unfortunately, she couldn't keep the book because apparently they didn't even want them to remember what they did to them, so they had to, So this is, the funny thing about this is, it's like, these guys this was the first time they were doing that either, they had just decided, maybe we shouldn't let them remember it.
Yeah.
First time, So anyway, they let her go. And they said Barney met her at the door, and they walked out to their car, and the alien said, you guys can watch us as we leave if you want. And they're like, okay,
Don't
so
let
they
the
did.
door hit you on the ass on the way out.
Yeah, so they did. They watched them, and then they got in their car and started driving. Now they wake up.
Let me just stop the conversation for a minute. Let's all mourn the loss of my Boom Beach soldiers that I've been fucking with this entire time while you were speaking.
Why? What happened?
My tablet died. They're all gone.
What? It really does that?
Yeah. Sometimes when my tablet shuts down while I'm playing, I lose all my soldiers.
That sucks.
Moment of silence. Okay, where were you?
Okay, so anyway, her dreams ended after that. She did not have another dream after that about it. And by the way, she explained to everybody that these dreams were so vivid that she thought they were real. Like, they were the most vivid dreams she had in her life.
Maybe
she actually wrote them down.
Maybe more like memories.
Yeah, she actually wrote them down in a journal, which is somewhere to be found. I know it's somewhere. I think it's in some sort of science lab or
who
something.
doesn't have an alien abduction journal laying around somewhere?
Right?
I know I got one.
Yeah, exactly.
We actually do.
So anyway, she tells Barney, and he seems concerned, but kind of blows it off, and nothing ever comes from it. I guess she ends up calling the Air Force and gets a hold of somebody.
Now, does she ever explain how she got a hold of the Air Force? Because that's a weird thing to have.
It was just a local Air Force next to there. It was actually in the town or something.
If she, called Area 51 or something, I gotta question why she had that on speed dial,
Yeah, no, actually, she didn't call them. She sent a letter, and the letter explaining everything in detail about what happened.
This is 2015.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Explain what that is to people.
Right, yeah.
It's like a physical instant message.
Yeah, right. So anyway, she sent a letter, and it somehow made its way to somebody in the higher-ups who came out and actually he called them and did a phone interview with them, and then he sent somebody out and talked to him. Story goes that a bunch of people came out and talked to him from different UFOologies, and they actually went and got hypnotized to see if they could find the missing time, because one of the soldiers was actually really interested in the missing time, and they wanted to know what happened. So they both go...
Let me stop you again for a second there. One thing I don't like about a lot of UFO stories is people who get hypnotized. Because I don't know if hypnosis is like a scientific thing, but I feel as though you have to be someone a little bit more free of mind to be susceptible to that.
Yeah, we gotta remember this was the 60s.
That's true. That's true. People were a little bit more, ignorant to a lot of things back then.
Exactly.
But that's just something I don't like about a lot of UFO stories, because I've never had someone try to do that to me. I don't know if that's legit or whatever, but I always see that as being something you have to be open to. Which, it's kind of a judgment on characters at a certain level, as these people would be open to aliens,
Right.
But continue.
So anyway, I guess they had lie detector tests done too, and the lie detector tests both came back that the lie detector, basically, he put it like this. He said, I don't believe they were abducted by aliens, but the lie detector proves that they actually do believe that they were abducted by aliens.
See, and that's why...
So whether or not they were... They believed that they were.
Yeah, again, but that's the thing with lie detectors is if you can truly believe something and, fool a lie detector, doesn't mean that's what happened, but it can mean you're not lying.
Exactly. So, yes, they were not lying about it.
Believing that.
Yeah, believing in that they were abducted by aliens. So, anyway, they get hypnotized, and strangely enough, exactly how Betty's dreams was exactly... Almost. There was some differences, but almost to the T... of what the missing time was. Barney's account of the missing time was that he had the sudden urge, when all that whizzing and all that stuff was going on, he had the sudden urge to turn off into the woods. So he did. And he got out of the car, they both did, and the aliens led them up into the ship, they separated them, and I guess Barney even asked, why are you separating us? And one of the aliens was like, don't be afraid, we're just doing it because if we had you guys together...
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, he's like, I guess the alien told him, if we keep you guys together, the examination process will take longer. If we separate you, it'll go quicker. Don't be afraid, we're not going to hurt you. So, when Barney was in the examination room, the same thing. They checked his eyes, his ears, his mouth, his nose. They put a he said he had his eyes closed most of the time because he was so scared. So he doesn't really know, he didn't see much, he said, but he felt it all, and he said that they put a plastic thing over his genitals, and he said that he didn't feel like he had an orgasm, but he's assuming they took a semen sample. Right, and then he said that they stuck a tube up his anus for about a minute, and then they took it out.
How can you say that with a straight face?
He said
aliens are molesters, dude.
He said they took a skin sample from him, like they did with Betty, and he said they let him go. The same thing, they walked him out, they watched them leave, they got in their car, they started driving, and then they came to when they came to. And basically, that's really about the whole case, honestly. From there, it got to the local news. It became really highly publicized, and there's actually it became a historical landmark where they got abducted.
So, and again, where did this all take place?
Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Well, between Niagara Falls and Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I can't remember the exact area in New Hampshire. I know it was right by the old man on the mountain.
Yeah.
So it was right in that area.
The old man fall apart recently. Yeah, it did. That's a damn shame.
So anyway, Barney actually died not too much longer from some sort of hemorrhaging in the brain or something. About 10 years later or so. And Betty actually lived until she was in her 80s. She actually died in 2004.
So she was around for a minute.
Yeah, for a while. So basically, that's the story of Barney and Betty Hill.
When did Barney go?
When did he die?
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact date. I'm pretty sure it's in here. There's Betty's Dreams, medical help. This was all the, first public disclosure. This was the hypnosis sessions.
Okay.
Let me see. There's the star. It's right here.
We gotta show that on the end.
February 25th, 1969, at the age of 46. Cerebral hemorrhage. Actually, not long after, because this all happened in 1960.
Now, I don't know if I'd attribute that to the alien thing, because, your brain can literally just fuck up sometimes.
No, they didn't. It was 8 years later he died, and she actually lived until October 17th, 2004. But
She
yes,
had
we
a
will.
cancer. She had a good run, though.
Yeah, we will throw this in there. We'll also throw an image of them, and we will probably even that's an alien on the.
Played by John Hoyt. John Hoyt.
And actually, there's a lot of shit in popular culture about it. Like, the couple was portrayed by James Earl Jones and Estella Parsons in the television movie, The UFO Incident. And they were portrayed by another people in the television series Dark Skies, which was in '96. The Hills were briefly pictured and discussed in the miniseries Taken. The book Babylon 5 describes that the couple were abducted by a race called the Strebe, or
You know, I've
Stribe.
never really seen the X-Files before.
Me either, honestly. It was actually the whole American Horror Story Asylum alien thing was loosely based on their. Yep.
That's crazy. The song "Down to the Well" by the Pixies on the album
Bossa Nova references Betty Hill.
Huh.
So yeah, this is actually one of my favorite cases that I've read so far. Because, like I said, you'll probably go through and actually read this at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, it's crazy. So like I said, we will include images. We're actually gonna try and even find some interviews.
Yeah,
if we can.
we'll
and,
cut some information amongst us running our mouths.
Yeah. So what do you got to say? Is there any other?
I mean, it sounds good.
Like I said, that is the quick version. That's the quick story. That's
Yeah.
like this happened, that happened. Like that's not. They have a lot of detail. Imagine everything I just said, but in heavy detail.
Yeah, I like that. Like, it sounds a little bit more legitimate than some. Like, a lot of alien abductions sound really like fantastical and crazy and very dramatic. But that sounds, pretty straightforward and to the point. You don't hear about a lot of alien abductions where the aliens are very cooperative, though, and that's interesting that you bring that up, that they were pretty legit about things, which is nice.
Yeah, that's what I like about it is I just thought that the aliens were pretty cool, and it makes it feel like not less or a little less like scared.
Yeah, but
but that doesn't mean that's how they are.
The universe is probably fucking infinite, so at the same time, there could be good aliens out there. There could be bad ones too. And I'm a pretty logical person for the most part. I believe it's pretty ignorant to say that we're it in the universe because it's literally fucking infinite. You know?
Oh yeah.
So how could you say that there?
Yeah,
couldn't
they
be
are actually
anything?
the new theory is that there is no beginning or end to the universe.
Yeah.
It's more like a river where it kind of just keeps flowing.
The universe is constantly expanding.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to say is after everything went down, Betty was asked to draw a picture of the map that was shown to her, and she did it to the best of her knowledge. And the map was actually taken by a right there. Actually, it shows analyzing the star map. Let me just
Anal.
yeah, right. Let me just exit out of that. Let me find her name. An elementary school teacher. Marjorie Fish. Marjorie.
Marjorie.
Yeah, Marjorie
Majora's
Fish.
Mask? I don't
yeah,
know.
right. She actually, after reading the book, which is called An Interrupted Journey, she was an elementary school teacher and an amateur astronomer. She actually was intrigued by it, and she's the one that made this diagram. The actual diagram of the star map that Betty White Betty Hill drew is actually a lot more rough. That's what her star map looks like, which is actually pretty good still.
Yeah, no, that's pretty on point to what is shown.
I don't know what this would be. I think it's the sun or something, and another planet, like the sun and the earth or something like that.
Have we ever probed that shit?
That's what I'm saying. That's another reason why it's called the Zeta Reticuli.
Well, how far? Can you look up the Zeta Reticuli? Because I'm wondering how far.
That's the sun. That's our sun right there.
No. Look up the star systems. I want to see how far it is. Something tells me that's not part of the Milky Way. Now, how far is this motherfucker?
From the Milky Way.
39 light years.
From the Milky Way?
Yep. So,
Which makes you wonder, how did Betty Hill, someone who had no knowledge of astronomy, draw something that was 35 light years away?
39.
Oh, 39 light years away. How?
That's pretty close in universe terms, though. 39 light years. That's far as shit, but that's across the street. by my judgment of these things, that's
Apparently,
close.
actually, right here too, it says apparently it can be seen as a naked eye double star in the very dark sky, so you could actually see the stars.
Again, it's across the street.
So
in
technically,
universe
it is
terms.
possible for her to be able to draw something
But
just
not
off
in
of
the
looking.
not in the goddamn 60s. Someone ain't gonna know shit about that. No, she probably wouldn't even know how to draw a goddamn star system.
I wonder if it actually says anything about Betty Hill.
Oh, probably.
No, it doesn't actually, that I can see.
So, is anybody like took a look over there? You know, like if you look at Earth, I believe there's
I
certain...
know she said it was close to Jupiter. I want to say.
Well, it's just strange because on Earth and shit, I'm pretty sure
Right
there's
here,
some...
roll of Zeta in the. Yeah, and it just brings you to this. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we'll start throwing this together for everybody. I mean, like I said, and we'll even throw a link to the Wikipedia page so people can look it up, even though I know anyone get the Wikipedia, but just to make it easier for everybody. This was the Barney and Betty Hill case.
And now to look at Audacity to see that all of our recordings have been lost.
That would suck. Man, we